Ok. Si je tiens ce micro aujourd'hui, c'est pour partager mon histoire. Bonjour à tous. Moi, je m'appelle Moses. Je suis avec le groupe étudiant. J'étudie les droits, c'est mon troisième année. Et voilà. Maintenant, j'ai fait les trucs en anglais parce que c'est un peu difficile en français, mais ouais, c'est normal. So just to share about my testimony, I was introduced to the church back when I was around 13, so that was 2013, by my brother, one of my brothers named David. I come from a huge family. I've got 3 brothers and 4 sisters, and it's I think growing up was quite an adventure. Growing up in a big family, you know, we had to fight for things if we really wanted something. You know, if it was the last, you know, I don't know, pizza on the table, we always had to fight for it. Whether it was, you know, getting a good seat in the car. My family or my parents used to drive a 12-seated van growing up, so that was pretty adventurous as well. So I was introduced to the church by one of my older brothers named David. He became a disciple around 2013-14, and from there it's kind of where I was introduced to, you know, who God was. I think younger, you know, taking it back a bit, when I was younger, we used to go to a Catholic church growing up on Sundays, but it wasn't really a priority. You know, my family is a huge sport family, and we used to on Sundays we would always go out, do sport, and we never really relied on going to church. I mean, church was like, you know, if there was no sport, then church was the thing we went to. But growing up, we were kind of forced to go to a Catholic church, and it was. I think for me, growing up, you know, my definition of God was like a 3-hour lesson of understanding nothing. I'd literally just go there for the free bread and wine at the communion, but that's all I really knew about God. I think, you know, passing on years later, as my brother introduced me to God again, it was a bit difficult for me at the beginning, because this certain brother, we always, you know, we would always get into fights. We always had arguments and things like that growing up, and it was hard for me to see this, you know, this new side of him. This, you know, he was a disciple at the time, and that's something I really couldn't understand. Or for me, because knowing his background of, you know, he was someone who was, you know, I'm just going to say it, but, you know, he was pretty violent to me. But it was hard for me to gain that trust, hard for me to gain that relationship between my brother and myself, and I think it was really hard for me to transition into coming to church. So in 2014-15, that's when I had my first Bible study, seeking God, and I remember I really didn't understand the whole concept of the Bible. I didn't really understand why we had to seek, you know, this guy. It was really hard for me to just stay, I guess, positive about the whole Bible study, and from there I found no interest at all. So in 2015 I took it upon myself, and I decided not to believe in God or anything really. So that was a really hard phase for me into 2015. So I left the church for a few months, you know, had to take some time off. But within that time off, I realized that there's so much more to life than, you know, waking up, going to school, coming back, doing homework, go to sleep, eat. There was more to that. And I felt like there's a huge part of me that was missing. I think for me, you know, growing up in a family where we always respected the elder ones, I kind of just slowly, one by one, my brother was out there, you know, reaching out to my older brothers, my older sisters, and they became disciples. And it got to a point where my parents became disciples. And, you know, I think from there, that's where I kind of humbled out a bit, and I was kind of like, all right, well, you know, if they're, you know, if these guys are trusting in this, you know, this whole idea of becoming a disciple, why not give it a go? So I feel like the first time I decided to study the Bible, I didn't really have the right convictions. The reason why obviously was because I did it because my other siblings did it, and I had no true convictions for myself, pretty much. But I think just over time, I was introduced to the Bible properly by a brother named Joe Nah in Australia, and he pretty much just taught me the dynamics of, there's a clear relationship that God wants with you, and it's whether we seek it or not, whether we choose to seek it or not, I guess. And I don't know, from there, he just showed me all these scriptures. He showed me all these, deep cut, scriptures that really did get to me, that really did want me to find something, because I knew that there was some superior power out there. Obviously I did believe in science for some time, but I felt like science didn't really quite answer the questions that I was looking for. And so it was really hard for me to make that transition. It was really hard for me to be humble from there. And I guess I just took it slowly. So I tried, I tried praying for the first time, properly, like actually not, I think when I was a kid, every time I prayed, I'd always, pray for like a new PlayStation or a new, Xbox. I just didn't understand the whole concept of prayer. I just used to think prayer was something where you ask and it was given to you straight away. I remember whenever my parents used to pick me up from school and drive me home, I'd quickly make a prayer, dear God, pray we can, go to McDonald's. And, we would always drive past McDonald's, and I'd kind of look at God and be like, come on, man, like, why couldn't you help me out here? So, but yeah, it was around the time when I was 15 where I decided just to pray, and to really pray, went down on my knees and just asked for something, anything, just a sign that he's there. But it was really tough for me to believe again, or just to do anything for myself, because I feel like coming from a huge family, it was hard for me to find my own personal convictions towards anything, whether it is seeking God or whether it's just in life. But I think, I don't know, it just got over time where I slowly, studied out the scriptures, and I think over time I had continuous Bible studies, and slowly I started understanding, and from there I kind of just viewed the world a lot differently. I viewed my friends a lot differently. I viewed, the people who had played sport a lot differently, and it was tough. It was tough for me to understand that, if you want to be a disciple, there's a whole view of being different. And I think for me, when I first heard of that whole idea, I was scared of it. I was scared of being different. I was scared of being something that, no one else is. But something I had to understand at the same time, is different is a great thing. Different is awesome. Different means unique. Different means, what can you set yourself apart from others? And I think from there, that was the main thing that drove me. And then slowly making it out to teen events, going to my first teen camp. I loved it. I had a blast. It was an awesome time, just being able to be around, disciples and seeing what the life of a disciple looks like. And I don't know, I just felt more freedom. It just felt so much free. And just, it felt normal. It felt normal to me, and I felt like, this is where I belong. This is the type of thing I need to be doing to help my life be fulfilled. And I guess over time, it was really hard for me to make the decision. But in 2016, in November, that's when I decided to, make Jesus Lord, and that's when I chose to get baptized. But I think leading up to that, it was a really tough decision to make for myself, because, there was always that pressure of, all right, you're the next sibling to become a disciple. Your parents became disciples, your family as well. And I just found it really hard to, find my own balance in life, or find my own balance in what God had in store for me. And I think looking back at it now, I obviously don't regret anything. I don't regret, the pathway Jesus put me on. It was definitely a tough pathway, but I feel like that's how it is with everyone. We all have our different pathways, and it's how we come out of it, whether we choose to make right decisions or not. And I think ultimately that's whether you think it's right. For me, the right decision meant, every decision that I made was for God, and ultimately for God. It's so hard for me to be disciplined in that way. It's so hard for me to be humble to that as well. But yeah, I felt like it was really, overall it was really tough. And thanks for listening. Merci pour ça.